Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is when the Senate really moves, when you're at an aging committee about 45 minutes ago and you go make 2 votes, and now you hustle back here. I didn't want to miss it because, and put on a tie. I'm setting a new sartorial trend here in the Senate. No ties until you go on the chamber floor. I don't think anybody's followed suit yet, but maybe in time. Infrastructure is a big deal to me. I was a state legislator in Indiana and ran for the state legislature for one reason. Roads and bridges. I live in the southern part of our state, and we've always been the stepchild of infrastructure in Indiana. We're the crossroads of America. When I had the stark realization when I went there to be a proponent for a road in my neck of the woods, I got dressed down quickly. Do not come here asking about a road. Help us figure out how to pay for it. So I took that seriously, and in 2017, I served 3 years. We actually passed long-term road funding. I'm going to give you a few things that stand out vividly. 70% of Hoosiers wanted better roads and bridges. 70% did not want their taxes raised to pay for it. And as a state, yeah, that was depressing. Tolling, we polled that significantly. Everyone was for a toll road if they didn't live near one. So it got to be very complicated as to how you do it. We had not raised the gas and diesel tax in many years. I think it was 2002 maybe, so that was a stretch of 15 years. Here I think it's been 93. So with that being said, I did, along with being as a rookie there, co-author the road funding bill, which I was very proud of. We put a stream of cash flow out of nearly $1 billion a year that would get to $1 billion after 3, 4, 5 years, and then continue on that plane through 10 years. Then we'll have to look at what the next round of funding would be. We're going to address all of our Tier 1 projects, which includes a bridge across the Ohio, completing Interstate 69. I also authored a bill that I think is going to be the essence of what we do here and in other places, and that is to somehow figure out how you get skin in the game from all the government entities that are below the federal government. And the reason I say that is I'm a finance guy, a Main Street entrepreneur. The balance sheet could not be worse here to take on a project that is anywhere from a couple trillion to $4 trillion if you want to really do it right across the country. And I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that for defending our country. I'm worried about that for infrastructure. And I'm worried about that for the 3 programs that most would think are important here that are going to quickly not fund themselves anymore: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. So how do we do it? There, I crafted a bill. It was called, it was through a regional development authority. And areas like mine have always been interested in infrastructure, never had any involvement in its own destiny or a way to pay for it. We got a bill across in 1 year that both the head of transportation and Ways and Means, both of which I sat on, said it was going to be too complicated to do, but we did it because the need was there. We were losing infrastructure to the tune of 5% a year in maintenance and deterioration. Long story short, that was 17. 18, we teed up that bill with a regional development authority, raised $7 million between local governments, led first by local industry to shame the local governments into matching it, paid for the EIS, Environmental Impact Study. We're now doing something that we talked about for 40 years. We also did something called Community Crossings Grants, and that was cities and counties always asking for the state to do more. Well, someone had a novel idea, and as soon as I heard it, I got with it and said, hey, let's throw $100 million out there on a 50-50 match. that complaining was, it's your responsibility. We don't want to pay for any of it. Oversubscribed the first year. It's now into its second or third year, and it's the most popular program there because we're fixing roads and bridges. I think you can get where I'm coming from. This place, if you're looking to the general fund to pay for anything, you don't have an 8th grade arithmetic education. You certainly don't know anything about finance. And transferring from the general fund, when the general fund is running trillion-dollar deficits, that wouldn't fly anywhere else. So I think the solution is, like I've introduced an idea of infogrants, which we'll discuss, to where we start letting states that have been responsible to bid for more of the infrastructure bill. Start encouraging skin in the game, especially when you're looking at a place like this, you know, that has set a very bad example to defend our country and pay for it, to take care of infrastructure or entitlement programs. By virtue of, I think I'm the last one here other than Senator Carper, I'm going to run a little bit over my time and take advantage of it. And I do want to ask the question, do you think in your own mind, and whoever wants to jump in and answer the question, how can we pay for infrastructure with a financial condition that the federal government is in, and the only other options are states who've got great balance sheets mostly, the private sector since 2008 has got great balance sheets through private-public partnerships, which I know some people don't like. Aren't we just whistling into the wind if we think that we can continue like we have been, relying on general fund transfers without at least doing what the chairman suggested, raising user fees, which we did in Indiana? 48 out of 50 testifiers, other than the Petroleum Institute and the Americans for Prosperity, who I generally would agree with, but I believe a user fee needs to be paid, the tool that you're going to use to pay for infrastructure. Give me your honest opinions, because you can see what mine is.
I'll be the first to step out.
Okay.
And I will say I'm speaking as the executive director of UDOT right now. AASHTO is working on trying to bring forward to Congress.
Let me just interject for just a second. I want to hear what all you have to say. We have one more vote. I have 2 places I'm supposed to be, so I would ask you if you could just to be brief. Thank you.
Thank you.
But it's an important question.
Thank you. AASHTO is trying to bring forward specific revenue suggestions, but won't have those votes done until our annual meeting later this fall. So I'm going to speak from UDOT. I believe we need to be user-based. I believe we need to have it, I believe the gas tax is the right way to go initially, looking at road usage charges in the 10 to 15-year time frame. As a state that is only about 19% of my program is federal funded, the rest of it is state funded, I like the idea of recognizing those states that have been able to self-help, but there is a need for a federal national transportation system, and the state of Utah relies on good roads in Arkansas. They relies on good roads in Mississippi. Our businesses need to have that national transportation system. So because we've been able to help ourselves might not, be the same case in other states. I believe if you want to look at tolling, there's places for tolling, but for us the challenge is we can, on the interstate, we can only go apply for a pilot program, so it's one road versus another road. And I think if we're successful at tolling, we're going to have to toll a system and so that it's a little bit more fairness across the board. So our legislature has given us as a department and our commission the authority to make those tolling decisions. So that's my comments.
Thank you.
The AGC certainly supports that the Highway Trust Fund needs to be funded by the users of the system, and a user fee is the best way to do that. The gas tax is obviously the one that's in place right now, but those that benefit from the use of the system need to be the ones to pay for it.
I'd concur with my colleagues. Being able to support user fees is the way to go. It's not always easy, though, in existing road systems that you already have to do that. Transitioning to mileage-based user fee is something we should not, take our eye off the ball, because that may be a more equitable way to generate those funds.
Thanks for the question. This is something that we looked at in the future of the interstate highway system and talked about alternatives, some of which are being piloted by the states, like mileage-based user fees. tolling even on highways, but the feds would have to allow that, like we're doing now in Virginia on I-66 inside the Beltway. States are raising their gas taxes, and as you said, it was 1993 since that's been done. Because I work on climate with the states, I see carbon pricing as a potential solution, because then you're creating a disincentive to have carbon-based fuels. And while I'm on that topic, I'll just mention that there are significant subsidies still to fossil fuels in the U.S. The range is from $5 billion to $15 billion that could probably be saved, and that doesn't factor in the cost, of course, to the military budget or the cost of externalities in terms of air pollution, which is well over $100 billion. And then finally, large trucks on the roads, Class 8 trucks, are probably underpaying their share based on the roadway impact relative to their weight and their use. So that might be something else to look at.
Thank you.
Senator, I would certainly say it's one of the options that needs to be explored.
Very good. And that was one of the hardest things as a fiscal conservative in Indiana. I got up on the microphone and actually depicted how much it would cost my own trucking company. Every trucking company in the state of Indiana was for the higher diesel tax, which was 20 cents, and the gasoline tax was 10 cents. Thank you.